Alrighty, so these are the main frameworks that we use to find rural recreational markets. And from there, I'm going to show you what I do to actually extrapolate that data. So it's going to be done in ways where you will see multiple different frameworks and methods of how I do it, how I find six-figure deals, how I create the conveyor belt, how we do all these things. Just for example, I'm going to show you guys how I use priced. So with price, you always want to go to more, you want to go to research, and then you want to do the county that we just had. So I'm going to go ahead and take Clare County. I'm going to put it into here and just kind of see what it tells me. And also just so you know that, even if the ratio, that's the guideline for me, right? The ratio is 0.5 or higher, but if for whatever reason it doesn't say that, which it does, right? It always usually does say that, right? So you can even see here, right? Sold to for sale ratio is 0.75. That's fantastic. That's what I'm looking for, right? So even with that being said, that's a county immediately. We also want to go, where's the other one? Roscommon County. And again, you would build your mailer based upon that one key point county that you see that has a lot of red dots just like that, and then making sure that the properties that you're actually looking at, the actual comps, are consistent with the kinds of properties that we want to buy and we want to sell. Let's go Roscommon County. Yeah, Roscommon County, 0.95. And again, remember the guideline is 0.5 or higher. We always want to be in at 0.5 or higher in our county research. Even we can go 5 to 20 acres. Let's see. It goes even higher. Go 20 acres plus. Okay, that's a little lower. So that's interesting. So then that means we want to stay in the 5 to 20 acre range. So Clare. I want to see what Clare is. 0.1, 1.1, 0.43. Interesting. Okay. Just so we have that data. So now what I'm going to do, I'll give you guys a couple more counties too. So let's do one more county. This is how you find rural recreational properties to buy and sell. So we also want to look to and see that you've got Michigan, you've got Wisconsin, Minnesota, all these areas right here, just while I'm on the topic, all these areas are fantastic areas for rural recreational property. Even New York, West Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, Kentucky. All these are great areas for rural recreational property. Now, obviously, you need to go in and kind of see that. And a big reason why I use whitetail is because they're really the hub for rural recreational property and getting them sold really fast. And so if there's rural recreational property to be sold or to be for sale, then they're going to have it and they're going to know like what that market is like. And that property is going to be listed with them. And that's why I use whitetail, because especially for rural rec, they're going to have a lot of listings. And so I want to see like where do they have the most of their listings or even the least of their listings and kind of figure out how I can adjust my strategy from there. So you got Clare County. I want to go a little north because once you kind of start seeing this is more city, more farmland. I don't really want to be in this area right now because I'm looking for rural rec. So once that starts lightening up like that, look, again, you can kind of see these are more farming land parcels, more of a city area. I want to be up here ideally. There's really not. Let's use this county for example. Ogemaw. Let's go to Ogemaw County. All right. See, same kinds of stuff here. Let's see here. Seems like a lot actually hasn't sold through in this area. I wonder what's for sale. Let's see what's for sale. Okay, so pretty consistent. Hunter's Dream. You see how it's being marketed. Marketed as a Hunter's Dream, right? It's been on the market for 5 days. I guarantee this will fly off the shelf. But honestly, it probably would have flown off the shelf a little faster at $199. But who knows what their profit margin is like. If this is even a land flipper, I don't know. Good marketing. I'm not seeing any drone shots, but good marketing. Not great, but good. 5 days on Redfin. Yeah, this is the exact kind of property that you'd be looking for. All right, so then I'd go and put Ogemaw back into my research database just to see what the sold to for sale ratio is. Again, 0.75, right? So that's perfect. That's what we're looking for. So now I'm going to just show you guys how I actually build the data set. I'm going to show you guys. So I'm going to go Ogema County, Michigan. I'm going to go Roscommon. And where was our other one? Add it. And then we have Claire. And then we're going to add it. Okay. Because of the fact that I went and saw that the sold to for sale ratio for a certain point in, I think it was Roscommon, was a little lower. I'm still gonna keep that in my data set. I want big acreages. I still want 60, 70, 80 acres, but I'm just kind of keeping that in mind. And again, a lot of deals are really made with conversation. So you could like have the most perfect data set ever, but if you don't know how to actually talk on the phone, then it doesn't matter. And so we want to make sure that our data set is not going to be perfect. We can get our data set to 90% perfection. And that's what I'm going to show you guys how to do. Because even if you guys have the most perfect mailer and the acquisitions mastery is not on point, you're going to have an issue getting deals. So I'm going to go 5 acres minimum. You can see you can put your minimum and max acreage into price. So you have land characteristics. You're going to go 5 to, I'm just going to say 20. And then acreage increment is 5. It's by 5s. So then I'm going to go 20, just say 21 to 50, acreage increment by 5. So what that means is, well, the acreage increment is basically when the data set actually downloads, you'll see it. It'll be like, okay, from 5 to 10 acres, from 10 to 15 acres, from 15 to 20 acres. It'll be priced in that way. And then 5, and then you're going to go 51 to, I'm going to maybe stop at 100 just for this purpose. Offer price percent, I'm going to go 38%. I'm going to go price with sold comps only. So this is a very important factor right here. We always want to make sure we're pricing with sold comps only. We don't want to price with anything else but sold comps, because for sale comps is really just skepticism. It's skepticism of the market. So we don't actually know if those things are going to sell or not. Now, when something is actually sold, then we have a very, very clear path on what we're going to do, on what to do from there, because it's actually sold. The market's decided what the property is worth. It's actually sold. So things that I need to scrub out in the data tree filter. Marshland, I don't want that in there. I do not want barren land in there. I don't really want mountainous land in there, because then what you're going to get is a lot of slopey property. And even when you take this out, sometimes you still get property that's sloped up. I don't want that. Wasteland, I don't want that. Wildlife refuge. Natural resources, I don't want that. I don't want that. I don't want open space. I don't want common land. These are all just things that we don't want. And these kinds of things are taking out the likelihood of us having a lot of properties with wetlands, which we don't want to buy. We don't want to buy properties with wetlands. We don't want to be buying properties with floodplains. Those things don't help us. We don't want to be buying properties that are sloped. Those things are not going to help you sell your property fast. All that's going to happen with properties like that is the buyer is going to come and try to offer a bunch of contingencies, and then you're not going to be able to sell your property quickly, because the more issues a property has, the less room for negotiation, the less leverage you actually have with a buyer. And so we want to minimize those issues. Oh, also, last thing I need to do, fallow land. I don't want fallow land in there. No, that's all good. So owner occupied, we don't want that. What's weird is that sometimes, even though we're buying vacant land, you still have the data set. So to explain the way price works, Priced actually has a contract with DataTree, which is a very, very popular data source amongst land investors. So Priced actually takes all of DataTree's data and uses it as their own, basically. And so it's weird that even with the DataTree data that we have, sometimes they mark absentee owner, but then still that person could still live there. So we want to make sure that we're leaning the odds in our favor, basically, with the market research that we do and with this. So when we're actually going through the data set and filtering different things out, we're leaning the odds more and more and more in our favor towards getting the kinds of deals that we want to get. So you want to go exclude do not mail, absentee owner, corporate owned. I don't care whether it's corporate owned or not. those are the two things. I don't want to take out the exclude do not mail list. I don't want anyone that's on the do not mail list in there. The ideal seller for a property like this is someone that doesn't even live there. And even if they do live there, they're like way older. Maybe they live maybe they live a county over, even if they are in the area. But ideally, we're looking for people that are never going to use it again. Are never going to hunt on it again. And you'll get different circumstances, but that's the primary one, and where you'll really be able to like have a deal where you're, for example, buying it for $35,000 and selling it for $100,000. This is a deal that could literally happen by pricing a melody like this. So living area, square feet, we want to go 0 to 0. I want it at 0 to 0 because I don't want any structures on my property. Now, even if there are structures, which there's still structures could still come back, it's just going to kind of dwindle that down. If there were data reported to the data source that, hey, there's a structure on this property and, for example, it's 1,000 square feet, that's not going to pop up. Now, structures will pop up if the data source didn't actually report it. Now, there are some times when the county doesn't report those things because maybe they don't know or they don't have accurate reported information. So that's really important for you guys to understand. So we want to be at last sale date. I always go last sale date is before a certain point of time. Only because I don't want anything that has just recently sold. Because if it's just recently sold, the odds of me getting it for below market value are pretty slim to none. And usually slim is left town. So we want to go 21. Just going to say 2021, for example. We're going to go December of 2021. That's the last sale date. That's enough time for people to kind of decide that, hey, I don't want this property anymore. I bought this and it's not working out for me, or I bought it and I don't use it, or whatever it might be. All deeds, listing status is not active, pending. Then I'm going to get my count before I actually run my search. Cool. 2,100, 2715. Okay. So now this is how we actually go through and decide, what to pick and what not to pick. I'm not actually going to download this data set, but I am going to kind of show you guys how you implement this into your business and why it's important. So, for example, Roscommon County, 76 to 80 acres. Let's see how it's priced. So on average, they believe that we'll be offering $85,000 for a property. Now, it's important that you look at the comps because as soon as I just clicked on this, I can see that it gave me 3 different comps. These 3 are all outliers, right? So I know that right off the bat, I know these are outliers. So I want to kind of look and like, why are they outliers? Richfield Township, 80 acres. I mean, this is ideally what we'd be looking for. So look, if you're in at 85 and you're out at 159, that's an ideal situation, right? This $300,000 one is definitely an outlier. I don't know why it sold for that, but that's what I'm trying to figure out. If I can get some kinds of pictures or something like that. And again, I use geopricing. So what geopricing is basically they're pricing the coordinates of your property based upon the geolocation and coordinates of the other comps. So if you have a comp in a certain area that sold for $159,000 and your property is, say, right up the street or in a similar geolocation as that property, and you said 38%, that's why they're coming up with the $85,000. In order to aim for properties where you're getting a specific profit, you also need to make sure that you got a minimum purchase price. If I don't want to buy things for $10,000, then I can actually take that out right here. So you can see I've done a minimum purchase price at $30,000, which I didn't do before, which is why that other thing was in there. It's probably going to give me less records now, though. Let's see. Which is fine. If it gives you less records, you still have 973. That's okay. That means now you're way more targeted. Honestly, some of my best mailers and some of my best deals have come from when I actually had a small sample size of data to use. But I kept adding on. I kept adding on my data. You see all these, there's nothing there. 120. And honestly, for something like this, for a market like this, we might even be able to lower our purchase price, maybe even go down to 20,000, maybe even go down to 15,000. Because on average, if I'm going 15 to 20,000, you're still going to be able to sell for probably around $60,000, $50,000 to $60,000, which still gives you the kind of profit that you want. We'll look at these comps. See how long this took to sell. So this one took 3 months to sell. And you can see again, like I always say, right? We want to make sure we're priced aggressively. If this was priced at, say, 220, it probably would have sold even faster than it sold in. And that's what we want. So these are the kinds of properties that you'd be purchasing and you'd be getting under contract. Just to play with a little bit, just so you guys kind of get a framework of how I used it, how I used this to scale my business. 15,000. Let's go down to 15,000 just for this purpose. And just see what they say. I can guarantee there'll be more records. And I want to see on average, if I'm offering $15,000, what do they anticipate I'm offloading it for? This is a good example right here. Okay, so 17,000 on an average. I think I'm offloading it for 29. That's a base hit. So I'd keep that in there as a beginner, as a base hit. You don't want to do any deal that's going to net you less than $10,000 though. Like really, just it's not worth it. Honestly, it takes the same amount of time to do the little deal as it does the big deal. It really does. So that's essentially how you pick a rural recreational market and how you put it into price to get the data set that you actually need to send it to Postcard Mania to actually get the mail sent out. So I'm going to go a little bit more in depth in a later module on how to systematize a data set like this and send it to Postcard Mania and get all that stuff set up.